Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We've got an incredible panel set before us, and we'd love to introduce you to them shortly. My name's Abby Demi, and I work for Accenture, but I'm really excited to be here at Black Tech Fest with you all to talk about a topic that is close to all of our hearts. We want to review how the professional services industry is being impacted by emerging technology and innovation. And we have an amazing panel, as I said. So without further ado, let's move over to speak to our panelists today. We'll first of all start with some introductions, and then we'll move into the questions. So Ollie, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi all, really happy to be here today. So Ollie Akechi, similar to Abby Demi, I work at Accenture. I'm a managing director and I look after everything we do around business restructuring and specifically working with financial services firms. In addition, and I think more relevant for this discussion, I lead all of our innovation work for capital markets in the UK. That includes a large component of fintechs and working with startups. So really excited for today's discussion.
Awesome, thanks, Ollie. Moving over to yourself, Karen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Robinson. I'm the Vice President of Intellectual Property and Litigation at Adobe. And so my team is responsible for protecting the innovation that our engineers and tech employees create, and then also protecting the company from litigation demands. In addition, I'm the executive sponsor of our Black Employee Network, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome, thanks, Karen. And moving over to yourself, Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Omotayo. I am a lawyer at Latham & Watkins. Latham & Watkins is a large international law firm, and we're a full-service law firm, so we work on a range of matters such as corporate and litigation. I primarily work in the data protection and tech transactions team and the corporate team, which means I work on commercial contracts, intellectual property, and for startups who want to raise Series A onwards. Before joining Latham & Watkins in the Silicon Valley office, I actually did coding courses at Twitter and The Guardian, and I'd worked at Bloomberg on product innovation ideas. So I'm really passionate about technology, business, and also personal development. So it's great to be here today.
Awesome, awesome. As I said, we've got an amazing panel here today. So without further ado, let's move into the first question, and anyone can jump in and answer. What's the most interesting innovation that you've been a part of? Who'd like to go first? How about yourself, Karen?
I'm happy to go. Sure. So I think for me, really looking at the development of AI ML over the last several years has been fascinating to me, because I think initially AI ML was being developed in a way that was sort of like, this is just neat. This is a neat technology, but there was no meaningful application of it. We weren't seeing how it was actually going to be really cutting edge and moving forward in a variety of areas. And I think over the last 3-4 years, we have started to see AI ML be incorporated into just a vast swath of really interesting technology. Excuse me, really interesting technology across a really broad scope of businesses and applications. And so I think it's been really interesting. We have, we started with AI ML in our research group, and now we're using it across everything from our, Photoshop to our analytics. And it's really been fascinating to see how quickly it went from, this is something really neat, but how are we actually going to practically use it, to its incorporation across such a broad range of functions and technologies.
Awesome, thanks, Karen. And Caroline, I think you're about to jump in just before I pass over to Karen. How about you next?
Yeah. So Karen actually covered a lot of what I was going to say. So I've also seen in my day-to-day job, AI and ML technology being incorporated. So at Latham, we use software such as Kira to kind of help to streamline transactions and also help with the admin tasks that lawyers have to do on a day-to-day basis. So that really helps lawyers to focus in on most important issues for our clients and essentially provide the best service that we can. And more on a macro level, so whilst I was working in London, I noticed that law firms are really putting technology at the forefront of their business. So for instance, with training contract programs, which are the legal training contract, legal programs, they've started to incorporate technology and to ensure that people who are junior have a broad knowledge on the industry. And also London is starting to become more of a legal tech hub. So the same way it's done with fintech and it's developed in that way. And it's organizations such as Legal Geek and Legal Tech Labs from Barclays, which are really pushing legal tech at the forefront. So it's been interesting seeing how London specifically has developed as a legal tech hub, as well as how my day-to-day job has been affected by technology. And essentially it's made my job better.
Thanks, Caroline. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Moving over to yourself, Ollie. How about yourself?
Yeah, okay. So just to jump on the bandwagon as well, in terms of most interesting innovation, I think for me, I'll probably tackle it two ways. So one is a bit more of a broad perspective. And I think for me, innovation becomes interesting when we are really adding value to another person's life or a group of people's lives. And that could be we are saving them time to do something, or it could be we are saving them substantial cost, or it could be we are providing an interesting service that they've not actually thought about before. But when you can stop back as a consumer and say, I need this in my day-to-day life, and oh my gosh, why wasn't I using this before, to either speed things up, make things more costly, make things more interesting, I think that's when you've nailed innovation. So I think there are lots of different examples, but for me, that's the acid test in terms of, is innovation actually working? I guess to give you a very specific answer to your question around what I have personally worked on that's been interesting, I can think of one of the Brexit programs that I was leading as part of my restructuring role. And I mean, Brexit is a bit of a taboo subject, but I'll give it anyway. And there were probably about 700 plus different processes, different manual processes that about 20 odd different teams had to do at any one point in time, in order to facilitate a large change that Brexit was going to bring about for particularly the banking sector. What we were able to do was step back and say, well, actually, instead of getting our clients to pay for this costly service with 700 manual processes, you can imagine how long that would take, especially with all the teams involved. Why don't we try and find a way to automate this thing pretty rapidly? So we went away, we built a bit of a proof of concept on ServiceNow technology. With appropriate developers, and within a few weeks we had a prototype that we were able to go to market with, and then subsequently able to actually deploy that tool on a number of different projects. And we've since repurposed that tool for different but similar engagements. So for me, it doesn't have to be the most exciting thing, but if it adds value, then I think you've got something pretty interesting.
Awesome. And I think listening across the three responses, there was definitely this theme about relevance to human needs. And that's really what amplifies the effect and impact of these innovations. But let's take a slight detour now, specifically thinking about the professional services area, and also some of the emerging tech you alluded to in your initial answers there. For a person who wants to get involved or be part of this naturally, constantly, rapidly evolving area and space, what would you say are the most important skills that they should be upskilling themselves with? Who'd like to go first?
We're all being very polite.
Don't worry.
I've just spoken, so I don't want to hog it again. But I definitely have some views on this. So happy to dive in.
Go for it. Go for it.
I think this is a really interesting and important topic. And I think when you think about it, you may think that there are a lot of hard skills that one needs to kind of get into innovation and technology, data and analytics, which is true. But I think there's also a really important aspect around the softer skills. So those are the two things that I would really focus in on. I think around some of the more, let's say, harder technical skills, when we think about at Accenture that the types of profiles that we're looking for that are going to differentiate you from other people potentially applying, those technical skills are now really around modern engineering. I mean, Accenture, we've just announced a very, very hefty investment in cloud globally. So, really showing our commitment to what we want to do in terms of working with alliances, but also skilling up and training our own people, and then also looking for that particular talent. And by modern engineering, I do mean things like cloud, data, analytics, the entire sphere of those technical skills that you will need these days on many jobs, because as Karen alluded to, there is absolutely a lot of AI in a lot of the transformative work that we're doing in professional services, and also automation. So you need a blend of business skills, but you also need a blend of some of those more technical skills. On the other side, however, there's also a number of more, let's say, softer skills. I don't know if that's the right term, but there's definitely a number of other skills that don't necessarily relate to modern engineering. And I think they are equally as important. I like to term them as new generation leadership skills. And by this, I mean really bringing to bear your true self as a leader. Because I believe leaders now are looking and feeling very different to the traditional type of leader that you may have expected, 10 or many more years ago. I think now it's all about having that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, even if you are working in a corporation and for a professional services firm. Constantly, I am on calls where we are encouraging our teams and also discussing with our peers how we can be more collaborative, how we can share success. Rarely do I ever work on a project or an initiative that only leverages one type of skill. The bigger transformational deals that we work on is where we're actually putting together a number of different skills from different parts of the organization. So actually, as going into a professional service firm, your role almost becomes, really being a great internal shopper in a supermarket and knowing the right, the right aisles to go into to bring the best to your customer. So collaboration is absolutely key. Diversity and inclusion we've heard about today, I think also, that's also key. I think every single firm should have, D&I as part of their armor. And again, not just D&I in the sense of that we know it in terms of the physicality, but also D&I in thought and making sure you've got enough of that creativity around the table. So lots of different aspects, but I think those are some of the traits that we are seeing through our either early recruitment, early graduate intake recruitment, our experienced hires, and then again through a number of our accelerator programs for fintechs. We're definitely looking for a bit of both, not just having the technical solution, but also having the right leadership skills as well. It's very important.
Thanks for that. And I think some of the things that you brought up there were really resonant with me, which is this sense of encouraging people to appreciate the difference that they can bring to the equation. And in many aspects, being under a clarity about the unique talents that they can offer. and amplifying them, especially transferable ones as well. And I wanted to come over to yourself, Caroline, actually, because I know when we spoke last time, we're talking about how you've often been inundated with questions around the importance of coding and the influence to professional services. So what would you like to build on that in terms of the type of skills people need to be part of this relevant and naturally important change that's going on in professional services?
Is that for Caroline or for myself?
For Caroline.
Gotcha.
Sure. So as I mentioned, I did coding courses before starting at Latham Watkins, and I do always get questions about whether coding is necessary to go into the legal field. I also mentioned I'm really passionate about personal development. So I always tell people, if there's a skill that you want to develop, go for it and then see how you can use that skill and apply it to your day-to-day job. Then again, I think the most important thing in the legal industry, especially, is to really understand clients' businesses. So most importantly, it's important to have an understanding of what's going on in the industry. And most businesses have incorporated technology as a core function. So it's important to know what new technologies are out there, what's important to your clients, and what are the trends that you're seeing in the market. Saying that, I don't necessarily think it's absolutely compulsory or necessary to learn how to code. If you can, great, but focus more on developing that knowledge base. And just to add on that, I think there's so much opportunity for especially people who are more junior, like me, junior lawyers or junior consultants, to really get involved in technology in their company or respective law firms and make yourself heard, as you've said, really understanding your skills. And there's a really big push on entrepreneurship nowadays. So if you have an idea, or if you're seeing that there's an issue in your workflow, or if your clients are raising certain issues, raise it, make your voice heard. And you can also become a knowledge expert in that area, so that anytime anyone has a question or an issue, you'll be the go-to person for that. So essentially, use these trends and these developments as a way to really sell yourself and upskill. But don't be stressed if you don't know how to code. I've also forgotten how most of the coding that I did back in the day. So it's not completely necessary.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Caroline. So I want to come back to yourself, Karen. And again, when we spoke last time, you talked about people naturally being fearful of these emerging technologies, but the importance for us all to kind of buck up the confidence to be part of this change, especially when it comes to things like algorithms and AI being configured. It's better be part of the conversation than not. Would you like to build on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's critical as technology keeps advancing for us to think about the opportunities that it presents as opposed to barriers. So I think that oftentimes people look at AI and ML and think, well, okay, once the machines start doing their own coding, like what am I for? What do you need me for? And I think there are going to be new opportunities, and it really sort of it goes back to this primary point, which is there's the hard skills and the soft skills, and one of those soft skills is flexibility, is intellectual curiosity as well, which is to say, looking forward, seeing where the new development areas are going, and being confident that, okay, I have X skill set. There is a new area that is developing. And like Caroline was saying, figuring out if there are new skills that you need to develop in order to be able to play in that sandbox, so to speak. And like Ollie was saying, also sort of thinking about, well, what skills do I already have that are going to be transferable that will allow for me to move into this area? Because there will always be new opportunities. And I think, I've seen statistics and studies around this that people of color, oftentimes, a new job listing comes out and there are 10 requirements. And if we don't hit all 10 or at least 9, we're not even applying for it. And the reality is, other groups are looking at it and saying, like, I hit 6 of those categories and I can learn the other 4. And that is true. You can absolutely. So I'm really encouraging people to not self-limit, to not self-select out of even being eligible to be considered because you think, oh, well, I don't quite have it. I think all of us have been in a situation, and many of us on this call, I'm sure, have experienced it as well, is that sense of fake it until you make it. Right? There's some aspect of your job that you will learn on the job, and that is okay. That is a growth opportunity. So, I mean, fake it sounds wrong. I don't mean it in a pejorative sense. I just mean don't feel like as new opportunities present, if you don't have every single thing, because I guarantee you, we've all seen this, very few people come in with all 10 boxes checked. And so there are opportunities. And I think that one of the most exciting things to do is really keep an eye on where the trajectories of technology is going and making sure that you are on the front end of that and having the confidence to make that leap into a new area that maybe is not, it's not your comfort zone, but it is a growth opportunity that's really gonna sort of push your career forward.
Excellent answer, Karen. Thank you there. So today we've really expanded our thought process around professional services in this emerging technology. And I think a couple of sentiments to leave you with as we end this broadcast is that it's important for all of us as individuals to be part of the conversation and to see this as an opportunity to build a growth mindset, which really just means the ability to embrace the learning and discovery that we all need on a daily basis. No one has all the answers, but it's important that we're able to be part of that evolution and to look at technology as a toolkit applied to our ingenuity and creativity to the human need challenges that we all face, whether workforces, customers, or even just generally in societal life. And so we really encourage you to embrace the emerging technology trends and think about how you can add new value within your existing spaces and grow yourself. So I want to say thank you for joining us and the panel talking about this today, and we hope you have a great rest of your evening.